Welcome to the Tune Into Adventure podcast with your host, Rebecca. This is the podcast for women who are ready to say yes to themselves and to the adventures that call to them. Whether you're navigating a life transition, rediscovering your passions, or dreaming of the open road, this space is for you. Each week, Rebecca shares inspiring stories, practical tools, and honest conversations to help you turn your longing into action and your dreams into plans. If you've ever felt there's more waiting for you out there, you're in the right place. Now, take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin.
Hi, and welcome to Tune Into Adventure. I'm your friend and host, Rebecca. I'm a storyteller at heart, and I've longed to create a podcast so that I can share stories of places I've traveled and give you the info. But most importantly, I want to share stories of the women I've met along the way. I've made amazing friends and learned about truly inspiring women. I want these experiences, my stories, to have a home and inspire you as well. So, this is Milepost 1, the beginning of our shared journey. Now, if you're new here, you might be wondering what a milepost is. There's a guidebook called the Milepost. It's a mile by mile map that helps travelers find their way through some of the most breathtaking terrain and along the interesting highways between the lower 48 and Alaska. That idea felt right for this show because what we're doing here is navigating life's winding roads together. You and I, we're travelers too, just not always the kind who pack a suitcase. Maybe you're standing at a crossroads in your life between who you've been and who you're becoming. Maybe you've built a beautiful life, but something inside you whispers, there's more. More joy, more purpose, more you. That whisper right there is what this podcast is all about. Each episode, or milepost, will mark a moment in our shared adventure. Real stories, lessons learned, and that messy, magical process of rediscovering ourselves after life's detours. But before we go any further, I want to use this episode and start with where this mindset, tune into adventure, was born. Because it did not come from a perfect life or a postcard moment. It came from a time when I felt completely lost, and learning to listen to that small inner voice is what brought me back into the light. See, when I was 18, I joined the Army. I was a solid C grade high school student, no scholarships waiting, no clear plan, and with a military dad, the Army felt like the devil I knew. I figured I'd serve, see the world, and maybe figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And what an experience I had. I'll share more of those adventures in future episodes, but today is about where Tune Into Adventure began. I served in the Army for 7 years total, my initial 4-year enlistment, and then I re-enlisted for 3 more years. During that time, I got married, and when we both decided to leave military life, I expected excitement and freedom. Out processing from my military career took 30 days. The Army made sure I understood what I was leaving by giving me a full month to turn in all of my equipment, clear everywhere I may have an obligation, and attend a Veterans Affairs seminar. The Veterans Affairs rep explained all of the services they provided, and he ended his presentation with a loving warning that I'll never forget. It's very common for soldiers to get depressed after leaving the Army, he said. Everyone in the room laughed. I laughed too. We all agreed there was not a sad thought in our heads about our decision to leave military life. He let the noise quiet down, and then he went on. I share this so you're not surprised. Laugh now. Keep our hotline number for later. I'd love for your success to prove me wrong, but just in case. I kept the card he gave us with the 1-800 number and suicide hotline info. I kept his card not because I thought I'd need the mental help, but because I would follow up on the resources he shared during his presentation. On my final day in the Army, I waited in a room full of others calling June 1st, their last day too, and I listened for my name to be called. Now, here's how I remember my final moment as a soldier occurring. When my name was called, I walked into an office with a woman sitting at a large desk. She was the only person in the room. She laid out all of my papers, and we were both silent as she reviewed each page for its appropriate signature, date, and stamp. When she finished her review, she asked if I had any questions. I didn't. And then she stamped each page with a loud metallic thud, piled the papers, stapled them, and laid them in a document tray at the corner of her desk. She looked at me and smiled. "Thank you for your service," she said. I sat there looking at her and my pile of paperwork for a moment, and her silence told me it was time for me to get up and leave. As those doors closed behind me, I swear it felt like the world I'd known had just shut me out. I was no longer an insider. I suddenly felt like a stranger in a very familiar land. When I got home, my husband greeted me with flowers, balloons, and a big smile. I just walked into his arms and cried. At that moment, I felt so scared. What had I done? The months that followed were a blur. Moving from New York to Colorado, job interviews, buying our first house, and then I slowly began noticing the small stuff. The small stuff that once you start paying attention, you realize is not really so small. You see, a few years before we met and married, when my husband joined the Army, he literally left a friend's pool party in Southern California, went to the recruiter's office, signed up for the Army, and chose his departure for basic training to be 2 weeks from that day. He returned to the pool party, told everyone what he'd just done, and then it became a 2-week frenzy of farewell celebrations for him until he left. When I joined the Army, it was with a clear plan for my future. All I wanted was to leave the town I was in, get paid to travel, and then, when I was ready, attend college on the GI Bill. Now that we were both free of the military life and its restraints, my husband slipped easily back into the carefree life he'd had before the Army, and I threw myself diligently into jobs, classes, and trying to build something new. And then, slowly, everything fell apart for me. He partied, I withdrew. He filled his life with noise. I sat in the silence and the dark. It was a lonely, disorienting time. The kind that makes you question your worth, your purpose, and your place in the world. It felt like everyone else was living in the light, and I was trapped behind mirrored glass, watching it all. I was in the dark, and everyone was laughing and having fun in the light. At this time, I hit what felt like rock bottom, when my life lost its color, and I wondered if I had anything left to give. And maybe you've been there too. Not necessarily in the same darkness, but in that quiet, heavy place where it feels like you can't see the way forward. In that space, an image came to me, an image of a roller coaster, my favorite ride as a kid. It made no sense at first, but then it clicked. Life is a ride with highs and lows, twists and turns, and moments that take your breath away. And I realized if I still have a ticket to ride in my hand, I still get to choose. I can decide to stay on the ride and see where life goes next. That one small thought, that image of keeping my ticket tucked safely in my back pocket, became a promise to myself to stay, to hope, to see what else this ride might hold. And over time, that promise became my way of life, my reminder that even when things feel hard, there's another high coming. That is what tune into adventure really means. Learning to listen inward, to trust that quiet voice that says, I'm not done yet. I'm still here. My story isn't over. Maybe your ticket looks different. Maybe it's a goal, a dream, or simply the decision to show up for yourself one more day, but it's yours. Keep it close. After that experience, I began rebuilding. I moved into my first apartment, the very first place that was truly just mine. I found a job with a group of supportive women. I started taking community college classes at night, and I made new friends, built a new community, and I reclaimed my sense of self. Looking back, I'm not so sure that I actually reclaimed my sense of self as I claimed it for the first time. And when my marriage officially ended, I realized something I never expected. The end of these chapters, army, marriage, was the beginning of my adventure. This was an adventure of my own creation. I was now the captain of my own ship. When you think of things that you have struggled through, how low has life taken you? And how did you come back? Because I'll bet you came back stronger, wiser, and more certain of who you are. Those times that test us don't break us, they refine us. They show us what we're made of, teach us what truly matters, and remind us that peace is something we can create for ourselves. So here we are, friend, at milepost 1, the very beginning of what I hope becomes a journey that helps you see yourself in new ways. Wherever you are right now, standing strong, standing still, or still finding your footing, know this: you have your own ticket to ride. Maybe it's tucked away, maybe you haven't looked at it in a while, but it's there. And this podcast is here to remind you of that and to help you use it. Each episode of Tune Into Adventure will help you rediscover your courage, your curiosity, and your connection to what truly lights you up. You'll hear from incredible women who faced their own dark times and found the strength to climb out. Women who chose themselves, rebuilt, and found freedom on the other side. This podcast isn't just about my story, it's about our story. It's about how we rise, how we rebuild, and how we return to ourselves 1 mile at a time. So pack your curiosity and buckle up, because this adventure, it's yours too. Plus, if you're curious to check out the milepost to plan your road trip adventure to the last frontier, I've included a link in the show notes. I can't wait to travel this together with you. Until next time, safe travels, friend.
Thank you for listening to Tune Into Adventure. If today's episode sparked something in you, share it with a friend who may need that same spark. And if you're loving what you hear, please leave a 5-star review and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. You'll find links, resources, and ways to connect in the show notes, including how to share your story or tell Rebecca about a fellow adventurer. Remember, that adventure you've been thinking about? It's closer than you think, and you're braver than you know. Until next time, safe travels and soulful journeys. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. Rebecca is just your friend. She's not a licensed therapist, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. We'll see you in the next episode.